15 months of inventory, homes sitting on the market for nearly 150 days before they sell, and prices still running below where they were a year ago. Broward's condo and townhome market is in deep buyer's market territory, but here's what the data is just starting to show that almost nobody's talking about yet. What's up, everybody? Jake Fletcher here, Miami and Broward real estate advisor, team lead at the Fletcher Group with eXp Realty, and today we're breaking down the latest 2026 numbers for Broward County condos, townhomes, and villas. And there are some legitimately interesting signals buried in this month's data. Look, if you've been watching this market and waiting for the right time to make your move as a buyer, as an investor, or even as a seller, trying to figure out your strategy, this video has real answers for you. And we've got 4 graphs, fresh data, and I'm going to connect the dots for you on what all this actually means for you in today's market. As always, the link to book a one-on-one consultation with me is in the description down below. We'll look at your specific situation with fresh eyes and current data to build the right game plan together. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the demand side. How many condos actually sold, and how well did sellers hold their price? We had 800 closed sales in February. That's essentially flat, down from 828 sales in February of last year. So nothing really alarming there. This market is moving. It's not blazing. It's not in a frenzy, but units are closing. Now, here's where things get interesting. The close to original price ratio came in at 92.4% this month. That's up from 92.2% in January, which means for the second consecutive month, this metric has moved in sellers' favor. And you have to go all the way back to August of 2025 to find the last time that we saw back-to-back monthly improvements here. So what does that actually mean in plain English? It means that sellers are getting slightly closer to their asking price than they were 6 months ago. The negotiation gap is narrowing slowly, carefully, but it is narrowing. And, buyers, don't panic. 92.4% is still miles away from the 99 to 100% CPOP we saw back in 2022 when sellers were getting full ask and then some. You still have a real advantage and real leverage in this market. But the window is open right now. However, it's been showing the first signs of closing, and that trend is worth watching closely. So let's look next at the supply side, because this is really where the story of this market lives. We're sitting at 12,180 active listings in February. That's up slightly from 12,078 in January, a 0.8% bump month over month, barely a rounding error. But here's the more important number. That's actually down 6.6% year over year from 13,046 listings this time last year. So even though it feels like there's a ton of inventory out there, and there is, the peak appears to have been back in early 2025, and we've been slowly pulling back ever since. Months of inventory is sitting at 15 months for the second month in a row. For reference, anything above 6 months is considered a buyer's market, and we are at 15. So that is deep, decisive buyer market territory. Now, I want to give you some context here because this is important. Last January and February were both at 16 months of inventory. So February 2026 at 15 months is actually slightly better than February 2025. It's a small but real sign that this market is not getting worse. It may actually be stabilizing. And part of that elevated months of inventory every January and February is also seasonal. Fewer buyers are going under contract during the holidays, so those closings don't hit the books until January and February. And we see this every year. It's a yearly seasonal thing. So some of this 15 months reading is seasonal rhythm, not new deterioration. Let's talk about the churn rate next. What's entering the market and what's falling off without ever getting a deal done. So new listings in February came in at 2,371. That's down 443 listings, or 15.7% year over year from 2,814. That's down 443 listings, or 15.7% year over year from 2,814 new listings in February 2025. Sellers are pulling back, whether they're locked into low rate mortgages from the pandemic era and they don't want to give that up, or they're not willing to take price cuts that the market is asking for right now. Fewer new listings are hitting Broward's condo market compared to last year. And that trend of fewer new listings has been consistent. Now, let's take a look at expired listings next. Expireds came in at 1,903 in February. That's actually down 171 or 8.2% year over year from 2,074 in February of 2025. So while the overall trend on expireds has been elevated over the past couple years, February gives us a slight reprieve. Good news? Maybe. 1 month doesn't really make a trend, but let me be direct about what nearly 2,000 expired listings per month in Broward means. These are sellers who listed their condos and got zero legit offers, or at least none that they would accept. And that's not bad luck, that's a pricing problem. In a 15-month inventory environment, buyers have options. They are comparison shopping out the wazoo, and they're not going to overpay when they have 12,000 other active listings to choose from. And that is the clearest message from this graph. Price it right or sit on it through expiration. Last data set, and buyers, this one is for you. Days on market came in at 147 in February, which is actually an improvement from 153 days in January. We shaved about a week off of the average time to sell month over month, which is a positive signal. But zoom out 1 year ago in February of 2025, days on market was 121 days. So we're now 21.5% higher year over year. The average Broward condo is sitting on the market for nearly 5 months before it gets a deal done. Now, let's talk about median sale price next, and this is the part that should really get your attention. Median sale price came in at $265,000 in February. That's up $15,000 from January's $250,000, a 6% jump month over month. On the surface, that sounds like great news for sellers, and it might be a bit of a warning for buyers, but context is everything here. A year ago, February 2025, the median was $280,000. So we're still down $15,000 or 5.4% year over year. And if you go back to the peak of this recent cycle, early to mid 2024, Broward condos were touching $290,000. So we're now 8.6% off of that peak. And that's real money, all right? On a $265,000 condo, that's over $25,000 in value that has come back to buyers since the top. So here's my honest read. The month over month bounce is encouraging and worth noting, but 1 month of positive price movement does not reverse a trend. What it does tell us is that some buyers are stepping back into the market, which ties back to what we were seeing with the closed price, the original price improvement. The market is sending early stabilization signals. It's not a full recovery necessarily, but it is something. All right, let me tie this all together for you. The February 2026 Broward condo and townhome market is still firmly, decisively in buyers' territory. 15 months of inventory, 147 days average time to sell, median prices still running 5.4% below where they were a year ago, and that is a meaningful real buyer advantage. And it hasn't gone anywhere. But here's what the data is also telling us quietly, albeit it is decisively telling us that this market may be finding its floor. The closed price to original price ratio improved for the second straight month, which we'll be looking to see if that happens for a third month next month, which would then be a trend, okay? So subscribe, make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you might be, go ahead and check and make sure that you are. But having that improve for the second straight month in a row since August of 2025 for the first time is interesting. Active listings are actually lower year over year for the first time in a long time. Expired listings came in better than last February, and median price bounced back 15 grand from January. None of these are breakout signals on their own, but all of them moving in the same direction at the same time in the same month is definitely something worth paying attention to. And here's why that matters strategically for you. The best deals in any real estate market are made when the floor is still forming, when there's still uncertainty, still negotiation room, still sellers who need to move. By the time the market consensus says, okay, we've bottomed, this is the bottom of the market, prices have already started moving back up. And this is a pattern that's repeated itself in South Florida time and time again. So if you're a buyer or an investor, specifically in Broward condos, you're still in a position of real leverage. Prices off the peak, massive selection, homes are sitting on the market for months and months and months. This combination does not stick around forever, however. If you're a seller, please price this thing right, okay? The expired listing data tells you exactly what happens when you don't. Okay, so you need precise comps, you need a skilled negotiator, you need a marketing strategy that makes your unit stand out in a market with 12,000 active listings competing against your property. And I can help you with all of that, okay? Use the link in the description down below to book your free consultation with me. Let's look at your numbers, let's look at your specific situation and build the right strategy together. I've got you covered on both sides of this market, buying and selling. Jake Fletcher here with the Fletcher Group at eXp Realty, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.